Hello everyone, Raza Von Werder here, aka Kelly Everts, talking about the story of my life, and I'm now on episode 15. And I haven't said much about my dad. So this episode and the next one, I think I'll talk about him. Maybe even 3, I don't know. Of course I have a lot to say about him. It's complicated, that's a famous saying when there's a lot of dimensions in a relationship or in a person, then the catchword is it's complicated. Okay, basically, my dad was a very good man, a wonderful man, and basically our relationship was one of love, but I have to tell you, he let me down very badly. Okay, what he was like. My father was a professor. He gained a great reputation and a respect in our country of Lithuania because he founded the first state teachers college in Lithuania. There's a plaque in a museum in Kaunas, which is a city in Lithuania, for him, about him, commending him. And when we came to the United States, my father, they were affiliated, both my parents were affiliated with the local church in Newark. It's a Lithuanian church called, or was Lithuanian, I don't know what it is now, but it was called the I think, I'm not, this was a long time ago, but I vaguely remember it was called the Annunciation Church. So what Dad did was he set up, he was very wonderful at teaching and organizing teaching facilities. So since they had an auditorium and the place for a school, so he organized a school with 27 paid teachers. He told me that later. I didn't know. I was just 5, 6 years old at the time. And so you've got to give him a lot of credit. Both my parents, by the way, were industrious and hard working. They worked at regular jobs, and then when the jobs were finished, they did other work, volunteer work, like that. My mother also worked as part of the volunteer staff at the Annunciation Church. She was the producer of at least one play, which all of us were in, all the kids. It was a Christmas play, a Christmas pageant, and I remember she loved being the director because she liked to dominate. Well, what was my father like? Incredibly intelligent, well educated, well read, well literary ways, musical ways, artistic ways, it was culture. It was culture. We were what's called in our country, the intelligentsia. Those are the cultured people who are elite in education. And there was some wealth in my family. There was some wealth and some poverty. There was not poverty like welfare, nothing like, in our country we didn't have welfare, but there were some hardships and there were some wealth as well. But anyway, my father was a very soft-spoken, easygoing, basically, man who would never become violent or yell or scream or do anything nasty or mean. He was basically easygoing, kind, loving, and affectionate. I was his pet. And for a long time I entertained the idea that Dad loved me as much as I loved him. And it was many years later, one time, I was already like in my, I don't remember, 20s or 30s or something, and I was thinking about my dad. And I heard a voice that said, he did not love you as much as you thought he loved you. And that really made me sad, because I always imagined, you know, you want to believe your dad and your mom love you. You want to believe it. You want to believe it. I was his pet. And as a little girl, I was always kissing him, sitting in his lap. He held my hand. I learned what affectionate love was from dad, not from mom. Mom was not affectionate. I mean, she nursed us all. She took care of us. But she was not affectionate. She wasn't affectionate to men either. You know, she had sex with them, but she wasn't affectionate, you know, and demonstrative in love. She was not. So I learned, you know, I read, I studied that we learn about love and everything from the example of our mothers. Well, I learned from the example of my father. So he was affectionate, but when it came time to take me, my mother left. That's a whole nother subject, how my mother left, how she got a new boyfriend, husband, whatever, and went to the farm. He was part of getting the farm going. He was the beginning of the farm. He got a loan from one of the priests. He showed me the, you know, IOU. It wasn't a lot of money, but that was a long time ago. So $500 a long, long time ago, you know, was like $2,000 or $3,000 today. And so I believe my mother conned Dad into believing that he was going to come and live with us. But she had no intention. And that was the lie she told me, that Dad was going to come and live with us. And when I realized that he wasn't, it devastated me. I was 10 years old when I realized this was all a lie. This is all a lie. And I was a great artist, and I did my art for Dad. Marius Bernatas, the new husband, that would become the new husband, when I was 6 years old, 7 years old, he must have been working in a paper factory, because he used to bring stacks like this of paper once a week or so that he must have smuggled out of the factory. And that was given to me, and I drew pictures every day. I became very good at drawing, very good. And so when I found out, I was, you know, 10 years old going on 11, when I found out in the 5th grade that Dad wasn't going to come live with us, it was over, I was so devastated. I said, I will never draw again. Now, this is like Paganini when he said, I'll never play the violin again, when the king commanded the woman he loved to marry another guy. And he couldn't play the violin anymore for years, until he got her back. So I eventually, of course, not right away, eventually I lost my ability, because to have any talent to continue, you have to keep developing it. You know, if you're a dancer, I'm a dancer. So in order to keep my dancing abilities going, I can never slack off and stop dancing. I practice dancing all the time. In fact, I still do. All the time. Not every single day, but a lot. And learning new things, like now I'm learning flamenco. So my dad, even though I thought he was in love with me the way I was in love with him, and I will say this, his abandonment now, yes, she left him. I thought he was going to live with us. For 2 years she kept saying, Dad is going to live with us, Dad is going to live with us. The new husband, Marius, was living with us. My mother had no intention of letting Dad live with us. And when I finally realized he wasn't, I said, I'll never draw again. Nobody noticed. Nobody noticed I never drew anymore. In fact, a few years later, when I did go live with Dad and he saw my new artwork, he was like, you ain't got it anymore. He didn't say that. But that was enough to just kill my spirit. Yeah, I don't have the ability that you once encouraged in me and admired. To be continued.